This morning, a passerby is recovering in the hospital after he was caught up in the middle of gunfire at a gas station in West Haven.
Hours before that shooting, police made several arrests at a popular town beach. Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Olivia Schuler live from the newsroom this morning with the latest details. What do we know?
Caitlin and Nicole, the shooting happened at a gas station on Campbell and Noble Street in West Haven. Hours before that, police arrested a handful of people for their involvement in a party gone wrong at a West Haven town beach. These incidents led to 2 police officers being injured. Investigators and local leaders have their hands full trying to understand and investigate these back-to-back crimes. The shooting happened at 7 Monday night. Police couldn't say how many people were arrested in regard to the shooting, but they did say arrests have been made. The passerby that was shot suffered a minor injury and is expected to be okay. West Haven Police Chief Joseph Perno says an officer suffered a minor injury trying to arrest those involved in the shooting. Another police officer suffered another minor injury while making an arrest at the West Haven Town Beach hours earlier. Monday afternoon, police responded to a brawl that led to multiple arrests. West Haven Police Chief Joseph Perno says what happened on the beach disrupted a handful of families and should not have ever happened.
I was very, very upset when people that were coming here to enjoy the beach left because of this. It was very upsetting to see that. Parents, people were walking their dogs, and then they had to leave because of this nonsense.
Right now, police are not connecting the brawl and the gas station shooting together. However, they are close in distance. Chief Perno says there were about 2,000 people in total that visited the beach on Monday. In the next half hour, I'll explain how town leaders plan to take action against these recent crimes. Live in the studio, Olivia Schuler, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
All right, thanks.